All right, let's be real. We've all been in those meetings, right? You know the ones. Everyone's throwing around buzzwords like agile and velocity, and you're just kind of sitting there, nodding, trying to figure out what it all actually means. Well, today, we're going to cut right through all that jargon. We're getting to the core of what agile is really about. And here's a little spoiler for you. It's got almost nothing to do with being fast. Nope, it's about something way more important, creating actual value. So, let's dive in.
So let me ask you this. Is your team truly agile, or are you guys just busy? I'm asking because I've been there. I was on this team once, and man, we were always busy. I mean, we were shipping features like crazy, just cranking stuff out. But the whole time, we had this nagging feeling. Like we had no clue if any of it was actually making a difference. We were just spinning our wheels, you know? And it was so frustrating. If that feeling sounds even a little bit familiar, stick around. We're going to talk about how to break that cycle for good.
Okay, so the very first step, the first thing we have to tackle is this massive misconception that so many people fall into. I like to call it the faster trap. It's this idea that the whole point of going agile is just to do more stuff more quickly. Just speed, speed, speed.
And this really breaks it down, right? On one side, you have the myth. Agile is all about moving faster. But the reality? It's about delivering value. See, this isn't just a small change in wording. It's a huge, fundamental shift in how you think. We're moving away from measuring just activity, how busy we are, to measuring actual impact.
And this quote just hits the nail on the head. Delivering quickly is meaningless if the outcome does not meet customer needs. I mean, think about it. It's like driving a Ferrari at top speed, but in the completely wrong direction. You're moving fast, sure, but you're not getting any closer to where you need to be. If what you're building doesn't solve a real problem for a real customer, then all that speed is just wasted effort. Okay, so if chasing speed is the trap, what should we be chasing instead? That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Well, this is where it starts to get really good. We're going to dig into a framework that's designed to flip that whole script to help you focus on putting value way ahead of velocity. And that framework is called Evidence-Based Management, or EBM. The name pretty much says it all, right? It's about managing your work based on cold, hard evidence. Not gut feelings, not what the highest paid person in the room thinks, but actual data. It's all about using real evidence to see what's working and, just as important, what isn't, so you can double down on what truly matters. So, we're on board with focusing on value. Awesome. But that brings up a pretty big question. How do you even know what's valuable? And how do you set goals that actually guide you toward that value? Well, that's exactly what we're tackling next. And honestly, the answer might challenge some long-held beliefs.
Let's talk about goals, specifically SMART goals. You know them, you love them, or maybe you don't. Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time-bound. It's been hammered into us forever, but I'm going to propose something a little radical. What if, for the really complex, messy problems we face today, SMART goals just aren't that smart? What if, in a world that changes on a dime, they actually hold us back?
This lays it out perfectly. Look at traditional SMART goals. They're obsessed with being actionable, realistic, and time-bound. It's all about the how and the when. But then you look at strategic goals. They're totally different. They focus on the desired impact. They're about the why and the what. They're not worried about feasibility or timelines right now. They're about pointing you toward a North Star.
And this is where it might feel a little weird, but it's crucial. Strategic goals are, well, they're different. They aren't necessarily actionable right away. They're not always realistic either. They're supposed to be aspirational, a big, hairy, audacious goal. And this last point is maybe the most important one. You should never tie them to performance reviews. The second you do that, people will stop aiming high and start playing it safe. You'll kill all that amazing creativity.
Okay, so you're probably thinking, if my goals are these giant aspirational things, how in the world do I measure progress? And that is a fantastic question. It brings us to our next piece of the puzzle, measuring what actually matters. Because let's be honest, if you measure the wrong stuff, you're just going to end up chasing your tail again.
First up, let's talk about what not to measure. These are the classic vanity metrics. They look good on a chart, they make you feel busy and productive, but they're basically an illusion of progress. Things like velocity. Sure, it tells you you're busy, but are you busy doing the right things? Team utilization. I mean, aiming for 100% utilization is just a fast track to burnout. And number of features built? That tells you nothing about whether customers actually use or like those features.
So if those are the vanity metrics, what's the real scoreboard look like? It looks like this. These are value metrics. They measure what matters. We're talking about customer satisfaction. Are people happy? Customer retention. Are they sticking around? Are we reducing their unmet needs? Are we actually improving their lives in some small way? These are the numbers that tell you if you're winning.
So this all leads to one final, really important piece. We know what to measure now, but how do we get that data? How do we gather the proof that we're moving the needle on those value metrics? Well, that brings us to our last topic, learning through evidence. Which leads us to the big question. How do you get evidence you can actually trust? Now, the answer isn't to just collect mountains of data and hope for the best. It's not about big data, it's about smart data. It's about running small, focused experiments that give you clear insights you can actually act on.
Okay, let's think about this scientifically. The wrong way to do it? You run a bunch of experiments all at the same time. You change the button color, and the headline, and the pricing. The problem is, if something works, you have no idea what worked. It's just a mess of confusing results. The right way is to be methodical. You run one experiment at a time. This gives you clean, reliable evidence. You learn something concrete, and then you move on to the next experiment.
And really, if you remember one thing about this whole process, let it be this. One single, focused experiment that gives you a clear answer, a real piece of learning, is infinitely more valuable than running a dozen experiments that just leave you confused. It's about the quality of your learning, not the quantity of your experiments.
So that's the framework. But now it's over to you. I want you to take this back to your team, maybe even tomorrow morning, and ask this one powerful question. What is the one small experiment we could run right now to get real evidence about what our customers truly value? Start there, because finding the answer to that simple question, well, that could change everything.